Now that we have a very basic test case passing, let's go ahead and write the other side of this, where the input is going to be invalid. So what we're going to do again is write the test first, so I'm going to copy this one and just say it is invalid. And in this case, we're going to pass an undefined value, for example, an empty string. We're going to then expect valid to be false, so let's go ahead and update that to be false. And we're going to have a message in here, and it's just going to say required because the input is required. If we save this off, of course it is going to fail, so let's go ahead and get this one passing. All we need to do is first spell value correctly, and then we're going to see if value is present or if it's not present. And if it's not going to be here, we're just going to return valid false with the correct message. So let's go ahead and update that one. We're also going to have required in here, and that's going to be the message actually, rather, it's going to be required. And if we save this off, everything is going to fail apparently. I've made a mistake somewhere along the line. This should be value instead of valid. And now everything is passing. We might like to test a few more cases in here. For example, we could copy this one and make this different undefined value, for example, undefined or null, and we would expect both of these to pass as well. Instead of having 3 tests, however, I'm going to show you a little trick that you can do to refactor your tests. We're going to use just test.each feature. So what we're going to do is write out our test cases first. We're going to test all the different null values in JavaScript. So I'm going to create a new variable called cases, and this is going to be an array with both our inputs and our outputs. So by input, I'm going to have, for example, an empty string, and then the output is going to be that failed validator. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this one and assign it to a variable down here, just so we can reuse it. I'm just going to call this one, let's say validator, or let's just say result actually, it's probably a bit of a better name. And now, if I go ahead and pass this in, I'm going to have my first test case set up. Let's go ahead and see how we can write a test with this one now. What I'm going to do is delete this test up here, and we're going to do test.each, and this is going to take a few arguments. The first argument is going to be the test cases. In this case, we're going to pass in our array. And then the next thing is going to be a function which has the description. In this case, returns invalid. And then the third argument here is going to be the test cases. So it's going to take a callback with several arguments. Each argument is going to match up to one of these variables here. So I'm going to have 2, my empty string and my result. So I'm going to say input here and then output for my second variable. And then I'm going to go ahead and write my assertions in here. So what we need to do is say expect. We're going to expect the required and pass in the input, and that should be equal to the output. So I'm just going to say to equal and pass in the output. And if we've done everything here correctly and we save this off, everything should still be passing, and so it is. The reason this is useful is we can now write many test cases in a very concise manner. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and copy this one and put some more values in here. For example, null, and we're also going to test undefined. And if I've done everything correctly and all our test cases are going to pass, we should be able to save this off and everything is still going to continue passing. Definitely a good place to be. Let's go ahead now and move on to the next lecture where we're going to look at a little bit more complex validator.